Welcome to the Pop Culture Breakdown with Overlord DVD. Our top story today, Kathleen Kennedy's future at Lucasfilm uncertain. Yesterday, over the Pop Culture Breakdown live wire, I received some fascinating information from several well-informed people with knowledge of corporate culture and practices who had a message for the fandom menace in regards to Kathleen Kennedy. Get a grip. These sources reached out to me to educate the fandom menace about the niceties of these kinds of corporate annual meetings, and they were bemused at the public hysteria at Chapek's comments. To refresh your memory on the matter, here is what Bob Chapek actually said in response to an investor question at a recent investors call, according to the Deseret News. Quote, Disney CEO Bob Chapek had nothing but praise for Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy during Disney's annual shareholder meeting on Tuesday. Chapek said he is, quote, absolutely thrilled, unquote, with Kennedy and happy to keep working with her, according to Deadline. He said he is looking forward, quote, to having Kathy directing the activities of the entire Lucasfilm operation for many years to come, unquote. One of these sources asked me, quote, why do you assume that Chapek meant what he said at the investors meeting? You have to consider where he was and the venue and the context. He couldn't say they were firing her or she was being forced out or what have you. And the reason is that he would be in trouble legally with her own lawyers and he would tank the stocks. He also is responsible to the investors and to the employees and the board. There are legal ramifications behind watching Disney shares crash and burn. He can't just say what everybody wants him to say. So you guys, I love you all, but y'all have to calm down. He said absolutely nothing. It was a big nothing burger, both the thing about Gina Carano and the thing about Kennedy. I've talked to a lot of different financial guys and they agree. I do believe Kennedy's at the end of her road, no matter what the hysterics are saying. And the reason simply is this. She has nothing to stand on. Nothing at all. We have to be patient. We have to be calm. We have to just wait it out, unquote. That was the perspective of one of my sources, but for a more detailed breakdown of why Kennedy's future at Lucasfilm remains uncertain despite Chapek's comments, I turn to the comments of a source with an impressive background in corporate affairs whose expert analysis gave me hope that the panic of the fandom menace may be unfounded. In my earlier report on this yesterday, I did point out the fact that there has been no official announcement that Kennedy's contract has been renewed, and absent that, what's all the fuss about? This source, who wishes to remain anonymous, agreed with that assessment. Here is the analysis of this individual. Quote, first of all, I don't see Chapek as being a true CEO. He's the fall guy to protect Iger's reputation for his overspending. When you look at Disney, traditionally being a very cash-rich company, to the point of making itself a takeover target in the 1980s, to where we are today, it is gut-churning. When one realizes that Gina Carano's viewpoint is just a touch more liberal than the Disney brothers, one can see how far off the mark the company's drifted, unquote. At this point, the source went into details about his or her corporate credentials, details that I have omitted to protect their identity, and then having established their bona fides, continued their analysis of what happened at this investors meeting. Quote, annual meetings are very tense, highly managed affairs. Anytime a CEO gets a negative question about the head of an operating company, that's like the kiss of death. These meetings are pep rallies. Anything and anyone jarring is not appreciated. Out of 10 questions taken by Chapek, 2 dealt with Lucas and Kennedy. That is huge, especially a new CEO with the ego of an eagle. I would almost feel sorry for Chapek, but he has a terrible out-of-touch reputation with the cast members in the parks. To have shareholders call out the CEO publicly is humiliating, and it will stick in Chapek's craw. Additionally, I suspect in California, Carano's method of firing, unless her contract had simply expired, exposes the company. In the past, companies have been sued when co-workers find out the news before the victim. I suspect that learning through social media would not play well with a jury. not a lawyer, but I observe things closely. I would be terribly upset if Kennedy's contract is extended. Consider, 1. Kennedy's alleged disastrous advice to Iger regarding setting Galaxy's Edge in the Kennedy timeline actually depressing Disneyland attendance. 2. The underperformance of her films. 3. Disney has always done backflips for positive customer relations, and Kennedy is a lightning rod of discontent. 4. The dip she created in Disney Plus subscriptions. 5. She simply refuses to learn from her mistakes. And 6. She hurts the bottom line for multiple areas, including even toy sales of the company when its coffers are bare. Chapek could not publicly say at this point if he was dumping Kennedy because 1. It would negatively impact the share price. 2. It would be a sign of weakness to the mob. 3. It would impair Kennedy finding a new position and possibly leaving before her contract expires. At the moment, Chapek's first priority is to soothe Favreau's ego, who, having lost what was assumed to be a protected, hand-picked protege with its attendant delay in multiple production schedules, would have any creative manager ready to quit. Disney cannot afford to lose Favreau. He has the production credit that will be needed to calm the investors. However, I suspect that if Disney's legal bloodhounds can trace the actual firing decision to Kennedy, she will be gone sooner rather than later. That way, if Carano utilizes Shapiro's attorneys, Chapek can point to conducting an internal investigation and say he responded appropriately. With Kennedy gone, Favreau could be granted a free hand to give Carano an enhanced contract to lure her back. That would be the happiest ending." Unquote. A viewer wrote in with this analysis that I thought was a good way to end this video. It is worth noting the following things. First, no true professional would throw a colleague under the bus versus how Kennedy fired Gina through a social media statement. He was asked on the spot by an investor, was obviously flustered, and so he gave a safe and boring answer even if secretly he or other higher-ups at Disney aren't happy with her. He did his best to cause no further damage to a disastrous situation. Hypothetically, if he did fire her on the spot, then the story would be how Disney is alienating itself by firing a woman in a position of power and being extremely unprofessional. SJWs would then start harassing Disney en masse and rise to her defense. He didn't officially say her contract had been renewed. Disney isn't completely stupid that they don't know the ratio of downvotes on the Star Wars YouTube channel, the Disney Plus cancellations, and how more fans than ever before are upset with how she's handled the Star Wars franchise. The films have continued to lose money since The Last Jedi, and every production except The Mandalorian, which Kennedy has minimal input for, has fired directors and gone through multiple reshoots. A director is more likely to be fired from a Star Wars movie than actually complete filming. These are very good points. And I think the real issue here is, if Chapek had indeed meant to announce that Kennedy's contract was renewed, think about it. Wouldn't he have done that right then and there at the investor meeting? Wouldn't he have actually said that? Wouldn't this have been planned and ready to go? After all, they've been talking about this for quite a while now. Investor meetings, as my previous source referenced, are cheerleading pep rallies. They are meant to get investors jazzed up and excited about the company. So why in God's name, if Kathleen Kennedy was in fact going to go on as president of Lucasfilm, if Chapek had had that faith in her, if her fate had been decided, wouldn't they have announced it at an investor meeting? Wouldn't that have been a wonderful place to go ahead and express confidence in the president of Lucasfilm if confidence was there to be had? That would have been the ultimate affirmation for Kathleen Kennedy, and it was withheld. It did not happen. And I don't know if it's going to happen. My friends, even Hollywood can only be in denial of reality for so long before things start to crumble. Reality has a curious persistence that no amount of bullshit and deflection can delay. Reality is a pressing thing. Reality is inescapable. And Kennedy has dodged her fate for many, many years now, but her contract is up for renewal, and it's time to shit or get off the pot. I don't know if Kennedy is going to be removed from the toilet that she has made Star Wars into, but I can tell you this. They better pay attention to the tea leaves. They better read the room, and they better start listening to fans, because if they don't, Star Wars is headed for an abyss beyond which there is no return. And now, this. Wokeness has once again struck at the heart of Toontown, as Disney Plus has decided to remove more movies they consider problematic from the eyes of their customers, in particular children, who might well be transformed into bigots if they're allowed to watch Peter Pan. God knows, prior to the ban, Disney was practically a racist fun factory, with kids as the Play-Doh, going into movie theaters to see the Aristocats, and coming out with hoods and flaming crosses. But now, Disney has decided to stop decades of brainwashing kids into becoming ists and phobes, righting decades of wrongs, and sparing America's youth from the evils of Swiss Family Robinson with this ban. In its March 11th article, Rebel News wrote, quote, "The beloved children's movie Dumbo is no longer accessible to children using the streaming platform Disney Plus because of stereotypical portrayals of minorities in the film. Dumbo, alongside several other films including Peter Pan, Swiss Family Robinson, and the Aristocats, have been classified as racist. The ban was initially made in October 2020, but has since picked up controversy on social media following the cancellations of Dr. Seuss, Pepe Le Pew, and the attempted cancellation of Speedy Gonzales. At the time, Disney Plus explained that each film was removed from the Kids Profile library due to the inclusion of unwoke content that was produced as a product of its time. According to Disney, the 1941 film Dumbo features singing crows, beloved characters by all who saw the movie as children, depicted as stereotypical black characters. Peter Pan and Swiss Family Robinson were cut from the lineup for their exaggerated portrayals of Native Americans and Asian pirates, respectively. The Aristocats, a musical featuring cats, was canceled for its depiction of two Siamese cats who speak in an exaggerated Asian accent and play the piano with chopsticks. Although the movies will be inaccessible to children, they remain available to adults with the addition of disclaimers warning viewers of, quote, negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures, unquote. With more on the Toonpocalypse, we turn to our senior correspondent for the apocalypse, the Eldritch God himself, my best friend and arch nemesis, Harvey Cthulhu. Harvey, what do you make of all this?
It's a really shitty time to be a toon, Doomcock. Dr. Seuss got canceled by his own family. Pepe Le Pew can no longer chase pussy. Cats. And God forbid Speedy Gonzales should speak in a Mexican accent.
As many Mexicans speaking English do, Harvey.
Yep. There's nothing wrong or insulting about Speedy Gonzales. He just spoke with a Mexican accent and wore a sombrero. So what? Lots of people in Mexico wear sombreros. Are any of those things crimes? And holy crap, they canceled Lola Bunny from Space Jam 2 for being too curvy. Imagine an attractive animated bunny. How are you gonna keep kids out of the opium dens once they get a load of those buxom bouncing bunny boobs?
Damn right, Harvey. 1 minute kids are chanting Red Rover, let Susan come over. Then they see Lola Bunny and boom, they're chanting Attica, Attica, Attica. From the playground to the joint. Thank God Warner Brothers and Disney are keeping kids out of the opium dens of Burbank by shielding them from seeing that bouncy, bouncy, bouncy bunny fun.
Correct, Doomcock. After this move to stop kids from seeing Lola Jiggle Jugs Bunny, either playground muggings and sexual assaults will plummet to record lows, or nothing much will happen at all, because none of this shit was ever harmful, and snowflakes suck.
Oh, precisely, Harvey. Way to solve a problem that was never a problem, Disney, by depriving kids of some wonderful classic films and characters. Hopefully these bannings will inspire parents to sit down and have a talk with their kids, warning them against the dangers of wokeness and cautioning them not to grow up to be punk-ass woke wankers.
And then show them pirated copies of Song of the South so that they don't grow up to be zippity-don't-da zippity lames. Chet, back to you.
My name's not Chet, but thank you for that report, Harvey. And this concludes this episode of Pop Culture Breakdown, your recap of pop culture news from around the world. From Section X Studios at the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.